Welcome to this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on media, focusing on cultural imperialism. Cultural imperialism is a critical approach that draws on Marxist ideas to examine the role of media and its impact on global cultures. Unlike postmodern and pluralist approaches, cultural imperialism suggests that the global media impose a set of Western values upon the non-Western world. The media transmits a dominant ideology that is based upon Western ideas of individualism and consumerism, and this creates a form of cultural homogeneity that is based upon Western, and in particular American, culture. This is in contrast to the argument put forward by postmodernists that global culture is based upon greater diversity and hybridity of cultures. One of the main arguments put forward by cultural imperialists is that most of the media that is consumed globally is controlled by Western media companies, and that despite some regional variations, this leads to dominant messages transmitted through the media being aligned to Western ideologies. The cultural imperialist view is supported by the fact that the largest global media groups are based in Western nations. 6 media groups control the majority of the world's media output, including National Amusements that owns Nickelodeon, MTV, Paramount Pictures and CBS, amongst many others. Disney, which recently acquired the Fox network to add to its portfolio that includes ESPN, ABC, Marvel Studios and Lucasfilm, alongside its Disney channels and subscription services. Comcast, which owns NBC, DreamWorks Studios, Universal Pictures and Hulu, the streaming service, amongst many other global networks. Time Warner own Warner Brothers, CNN, New Line and Castle Rock Cinema, and the HBO and Cinemax streaming services. News Corp, owned and until recently led by Rupert Murdoch, owns print and television media globally, and Sony, whose influence reaches out into electronic gaming, cinema and media devices. These 6 companies have a combined value of $430 billion and can dictate the agenda presented by media sources on a global scale. Cultural imperialists are critical of the concept of a global culture that is diverse and constructed by integrating individual national cultures. They suggest that rather than a diverse hybrid culture, global culture is nothing more than the culture of Western nations, and in particular the USA. It promotes Western values of individualism and consumerism, and this is enabled by the dominance of Western media companies in all parts of the world. Hollywood blockbusters, Western popular music and literature, and sports such as football all have cultural importance in what they describe as being a homogeneous culture based upon Western norms and values. For cultural imperialists, the process of globalization and the emergence of global culture has accelerated the growth of capitalism. In the post-Cold War era, large companies were able to sell their goods in more markets than they were previously, and this increased sales and ultimately increased profits. With the dominance of Western media, this can be used to advertise goods and services, either directly through advertisement or indirectly through product placements and promoting lifestyle brands to consumers in other parts of the world. This then creates the demand for those goods and generates more profit for TNCs that produce them. Whilst critics will suggest that the media reflect society and that these goods are able to be consumed because of higher standards of living, cultural imperialists look at the hidden impacts of these norms and values being passed on. For example, changes to work. With the demand for Western consumer goods increasing, many TNCs change their production bases to lower wage economies and employ people in these nations to make their goods for them. As the media has prepared people in these nations to demand these goods, they will work for TNCs and their subcontractors in order to be able to afford them. This changes working patterns. As Ritter argues, it's led to the McDonaldization of working patterns, the ability to produce a good in the same uniform way anywhere in the world. Companies can pay less, the quality of the product doesn't diminish, but the de-skilling of labour leads to workers feeling alienated. Furthermore, working conditions in low-wage economies tend to be less favourable than in the West, with low wages, long hours and less health and safety regulations and less unionisation of workers. This benefits TNCs as it keeps costs low, and this is accepted by those in low-wage economies as they've been conditioned into Western values, which facilitates their exploitation and alienation. Whilst cultural imperialists offer a pessimistic view on the role of the media and its impacts on global culture, others suggest that the media helps to raise standards of living and promotes values of individualism, meritocracy, and gender equality. Globalization has led to an increase in formal employment. In less economically developed nations, this has been in part facilitated by the media. Furthermore, not all media is Western dominated. Streaming services such as Netflix have showcased programs and films around the world and helped artists to gain new audiences in the West. For example, films like Parasite, the first non-English film to win an Oscar for Best Film from South Korea. Whilst other nations' film production has also spread, Indian filmmaking, Bollywood, and West African filmmaking are seeing increased interest in the West, whilst world music is becoming more influential, with K-pop garnering large streaming and concert audiences. Finally, whilst cultural imperialists suggest that Western norms and values are accepted, the rise of religious fundamentalism suggests otherwise. The spread of Western media and economic interest can be argued to be one of the causes of conflicts in more traditional and religious societies, whose own norms and values clash with those imposed by the Western media. That concludes this Tutor to You sociology topic video on media, looking at cultural imperialism. Thanks for watching.